Welcome to the Fellas Podcast, the ultimate Formula One podcast for fans by fans, where we discuss all the happenings in the world of Formula One. Now, let's get into it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our podcast, The Fellas. Now, I know you saw an epic finish to the British Grand Prix this weekend, but the entire race was awesome. We're going to talk about that today with myself and Ray. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to help us grow and bring more exciting content to the platform. So let's get into it. Ray, how you doing today?
Doing all right. How about yourself?
Good. What did you think about the race overall, the weekend?
It was very entertaining. I think this might be the best one they've had from a car movement position that we've had in a long time.
The race was awesome. The best race I've seen in probably a year and a half. Definitely for the season. I can't say it enough that this race was something that from start to finish, I had no idea who was going to win. And it really started in qualifying for me, where I saw that Mercedes was strong at the British Grand Prix. Some of the predictions I made last week was I thought it was definitely going to be a British driver that was going to win, but I really thought it was going to be Lando. And when I saw qualifying that George and Lewis were up there in qualifying and Lando was third, I really felt, I was surprised to be honest, but I really felt strong about one of those three winning the race.
Well, you know what? The big player in that was there for this whole thing and started at qualifying was the weather, the major neutralizer, right? Because if you remember, Max was on a tier and then he went off track and wrecked the floor, right, of a car, and was never able to get it back. So if that weather didn't cause that, he would have been on pole again. All right, I'm going to say that. For me to say that everybody's caught up is non-DRS when they start off, and when Max goes out for the front, the guy's back on that bump, right on that gearbox. And then I'll say, yes, he's ready. Right?
Max has to be in the front, right?
Right. Yes. Or if somebody else gets in front of him, Max can't pass them. He can stay behind him, but he can't pass them.
All right. We wanted to talk a little bit about the qualifying. I thought, McLaren, Mercedes, definitely Red Bull and Ferrari. Those four are probably the top 8 right now. I'm trying to give Sergio some benefit of the doubt that he's still there. I'm going to, show him some respect and say that, yes, he's still there with the top.
He might be gone. You know that, right? He might be gone.
Yeah, okay. We'll see. He'll get his money and run. But it sounds like you want to get right into it, right? You want to get right into the race. So let's go ahead and spend some time there. So I believe that the last 3 races, right, confirm what Ralph and I have been saying about the rest of the group catching up. If the rest of the group wasn't catching up, Verstappen wouldn't be making those mistakes. Red Bull wouldn't be making no mistakes. You said it today. Verstappen made a mistake, ran off the road, damaged the bottom of his floor. If he was way in the lead, there would be no reason for him to make that mistake and get ahead, right? So I believe they've caught up. I believe McLaren has to finish a race in order to be consistent. They haven't finished a race. They've started off good. They've qualified good. They've ended good, but they haven't put the complete package together. Lando Norris admitted that today. I'm glad I heard him say at the end of the race that they have to complete a race. But to me, Verstappen is under a slight little pressure. Red Bull's under pressure, and they're making silly mistakes, and that's why I think they've caught up.
Okay, well, I don't agree with you. All right, it's they've gotten much closer. Again, I'll reiterate this. Max messed up because of the weather, right? That's what he messed up on. Yes, they are biting at his heels, but that's not what I'm looking for, bro. I'm looking for when a man pushes, you're right there on his box. He's, with no DRS, you know how demoralizing that is? That you're out in front, or somebody else is out in front and Max come and he has to sit back there with no DRS and can't pass you. That's when you know that you showed up and they're ready to roll, right? I'll say that over the past couple of races, there have been circumstances that kind of helped the quicker team, which is McLaren, right, to catch up and take advantage of some of the stuff out there, right? But again, for me, I am still not ready to concede that they are 100% there yet. If everything runs smooth with Max and McLaren is, bearing down on him and staying there with him, then I'm like, yo, okay, we're ready to rock and roll here, buddy. We're ready to rock and roll. But, they've been on this. So, again, I think they've gotten quicker, but I still think they need a little bit more to go in order to be there with Red Bull.
So 2 things. I still stand by that. You made a statement that if there wasn't rain involved, Max Verstappen would have won qualifying. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, he'd have been a tier. Yeah, I think you'd have right up there. Yeah.
Okay. If Lando Norris didn't mess up in the pits and Piastri, they could have won the race, right?
So okay, so that's a possibility too. So again, so let me hear what you're going. Okay.
So that's one thing. There's always circumstances to where a split decision needs to be made, and 50% of the time that split decision could be incorrect, right? Mm-hmm. Max Verstappen made a split decision on that turn in the wet and damaged the bottom of his car, and because of that, why was he pushing so hard to get to qualifying? Because he knew he had to beat Lando. He knew he had to put in a good strong time. He knew he had to put in a good strong time because of Russell and because of Hamilton. And that's when you make mistakes. To me, you could be superior, have a superior car, you could be a superior driver, but if you got pressure behind you and you don't know how to handle it, are you really superior?
So let me rebut that. So listen, Lando, I'll say Russell, and especially Lewis, were uplifted by that crowd. You understand me? That crowd that was there, they carried them. I think before, I think Lewis has said in the past when he's won, whatever, that, the crowd carries them. The crowd is what carried them, right? Helped them to elevate themselves even more, because it's just like, when you're kids, you have your mom and your dad show up, and, you're like, oh man, I don't want to go down like a punk in front of my parents. I'm going to, step it up. Right. And they wrung the cars out to bring out the best in those cars because they want to show. So, so I say, I want to see a race where it's dry, and then we're doing qualifying just like we do normal qualifying, right? Where Max gets his lap straight, and then McLaren comes on top and tops his butt, and then we fired that shot, because then it says to you, yo, you brought your best, but I'm better. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so now you segued into my second point. I never got to my second point. So here's my second point. Verstappen had that same opportunity with 7 laps to go of this race. No DRS, and he only person he could catch was Lando, and he could not catch Hamilton enough to pass him with 7 laps to go. He still was 2 seconds ahead of him, and I think the total amount of seconds from 7 and 8 laps to go was around 7.
So, all right. So we jumped all the way in. We'll come back around and catch the other stuff in the middle. Okay. But all right, you want to jump to the end, and fine. So you know what that reminded me of?
What?
Imola with Norris and Max. It was a role reversal where, the late push came, but it was too late for that push for it to work, right? Mm-hmm. And I think today, Lewis would have wrapped that car up if Max really got next to him, because he wasn't going to move. He was not going to move. You know what I'm saying? He's not gonna move, because again, it just dawned on me that when they go to Silverstone, the British people carry them on their shoulders. So they whatever the car is putting out, they're putting out more than what the car can take, and they're pushing it. So that was it. But again, if we roll back a bit, it's all back to the weather, right? Because when the race started, right, came out, they had that, they had the passes where George took off and left Lewis, right? Lewis fell in behind him, right? And then through the first, couple of corners, they had, it's a little bit switching, but George and Lewis was able to get away. Whereas, then Max came out, a bit ahead of Russell. No, I'm sorry, of Norris, right? Mm-hmm. So, again, it was a little touchy and go there, but again, the weather is what played the key in this whole stuff, man, because that weather, turned everything upside down and brought people that, that would not have as good a chance. The weather was the great equalizer. That's what it was. It was the great equalizer, because I want to think that Lewis knows how to run the rain, just like Lando knows how to run the rain. And I want to say Piastri knows how to run the rain. I want to say, if I was a class, I think Lewis and Piastri, would be my lead people in running the rain, right? Because they know how to handle the car and let it dance, do what it does. I'm not too sure where, Russell, I know he has the capability, but I don't know if he's up there with like Lewis and Lando. And then I don't know about where Max sits in the rain, really, right? Because if you looked at it, right, because the rain crippled them in qualifying, and now when they were doing this one, it was, it was interesting. I'm not sure if he, it was interesting to see how, like Lewis navigated, the rain.
You said a few things there that I just want to make sure our audience catch. So in the first lap, Russell and Lewis were able to hold their positions. Verstappen was able to pass Lando, but it didn't start raining until lap 15. Lap 15, right? Uh-huh. So with that being said, the neutralizer didn't happen until almost 30% into the race, right? So when Russell maintained his position, Hamilton maintained his position, Verstappen was behind Hamilton. Mm-hmm. What was happening during that time? During that time, both of them were pulling away from Verstappen. They had the same tires. Mm-hmm. There was no rain. It was dry. There was DRS. And Lewis and Russell was pulling away from Verstappen. Can you explain that?
Yes. So again, Verstappen was being pressured by Norris at that point, was he not?
Not really, but yes.
So he knew Norris was coming for his butt, right? Because Norris lost a spot. So he's looking forward, but he's driving behind him at the same time, right? Mm-hmm. Because Norris did come and take it, right?
One point,
right?
Would that have been an issue? Would that have been a issue last year?
No, it would not have been an issue last year. But
okay,
again,
just want to make sure we put that out there. Go ahead.
No, but so hold on. Let's roll back. I said they've gotten quicker.
Okay.
Right? So, Max's nerves got shook from, wrecking the tub. And I don't know what they said they put a new floor underneath his car, right? So I don't know, how, if they had enough time to, tweak it or whatever he liked or whatever. But again, Norris was there. So you're driving forward and you're driving back. The Mercedes guys did the right thing, I think, in the beginning, that they seemed like they were working as a team to like put a gap up, right? So that, that he couldn't reach DRS to help him come back. And, if it were me, I'd have put the gap up, and then once you get the gap good enough, go down the road, then we could, sort out who's going to be 1 and 2. They move forward. But, it's a big equalizer, right? The weather, because didn't the rain start again? When was that? When was the first indication of rain where, what's his name? Leclerc went in, right? Mm-hmm. And changed, because he was the first guinea pig, right? Because when the rain hit, people were like, yeah, maybe not, maybe so, whatever, right?
Perez and Leclerc, yeah.
Right. So so again, the track got greasy. You know what I'm saying? So it's a different drive.
There were a good 10 to 12 laps when it was dry in the beginning, and they were pulling away. Both McLarens passed Verstappen in the dry, same tires, no excuses.
I've never been to Britain, but I could say around places where it's like rainy, on and off.
Okay.
There's always moisture on the ground. So again, it still had not max optimum grip for Max to make his move, right? So McLarens were quick. Yes, I have not disputed that fact. So they were giving him some headache. It would be a different thing if he got on the front, but he got shook that he, qualified not on the top of the list as usual. And now he had to come up and, fight his way back. And with, Lando being, aggressive and having, a car that's quick, he's going to challenge him. Right. Yeah. And that's what he was doing, because you remember the pass that he didn't even, one of the passes where Lando's went by Max didn't really challenge him.
He got bad press last week.
So it seemed like somebody may have talked to him about what's going on, right? But yeah, because this one, and he did. So you know what? To me, it shows that he doesn't really care about doing it the right way, because this one was like he just stayed in his line and let him go. He didn't even move over to like the middle of the thing. He just stayed in his line and let him go. So basically, it's still bugging him that they won't allow him to drive the way he wants to drive. You know what I'm saying? But anyway,
And then the FIA came out and stated that they were wrong. They stated exactly what you said last week and said that they should have given him a penalty and it would have avoided the crash. They said,
Zach needs to send him the check for that car.
I think you said it, right? So we started the conversation about, to me, where I was on pins and needles of the race was those first 10 laps. Actually, after the first 10 laps, when it started to drizzle a little bit, and all 5 of the drivers, the top 5 of the drivers, were jockeying for position.
They stayed on slicks. That was where the pins and needle was, right?
Yeah, man, I was so entertained. I think I didn't know. If you could sort of look on my face, I was probably too engulfed in the entertainment there. That was, to me, that was probably the best part of the race. And then the end, when Verstappen had the hard tires and was able to catch Lando and Lewis with those brand new hard tires. And I don't think he would have caught them if he had softs, to be honest.
So let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember the pass on Lewis put on Russell, right? And he challenged it, but to a point, right? They're not going to mess the car up. And so let it go. So my question to you is that, do you think that I think Russell wasn't really flustered with that pass.
No,
right?
He said, I catch him, I get him again. Yeah.
Right. So he was looking at the long game at that point, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because when I looked at the Russell pass, even if they're the same team, he just, he didn't came up, but your boy Lando came and spoiled that anyway, right? Because because Russell was trying to make that move again, Mr. Norris showed up and said, "Yo, I want that spot too." And so, he kind of flipped the script on them to do that. And his wingman, Mr. Piastri, showed up and said too, "Hey, if you're going to give that to him, I'm going to take that one too. Thank you very much." And he rode the outside out there. They raced him fair, I want to say, even though, he got pinched a little bit on the grass, but I think they raced him fair with that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But another thing I wanted to say, because I was watching them, is that these guys are typically, when you're racing, there is 2 lines on a track. There's a dry line and there's a wet line. Have you heard of that before?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what happens is, you want me to break it down? So what happens basically is this, that the racing line, that dry line that everybody stays on, when it gets wet, because all the rubber stuff lays down, it gets real slippery. The racing line is the line that people don't take. You get more grip. And I was watching these guys, and it didn't seem that they were taking like a wet line. You know what I'm saying? So either the rain was not bad enough for them, but even when they had the intermediates on, it didn't seem like they were taking a rest line. That's an observation I found that was interesting, that they didn't have a wet line. They were still kind of still on the dry line as they drove, right?
Yeah.
I found it fascinating.
They mentioned a little bit during the race where not all of the track was wet, or if it was raining, there were certain parts of the track that were more saturated than the other part of the track. And with the intermediates on, it needs the cold, wet surface in order to
moisture, to cool the tires.
Cool the tires down. So they were all over the track because of that. I see what you're saying, but that I do know for a fact that they were all over the track because they were trying to keep the intermediates to last a lot longer than because it was supposed to be a one-stop race for everyone.
Yes, right, in the dry, because the person I took away from that was I saw Russell was definitely coming offline deliberately, in an attempt to find cold water, whereas I guess the other guys had the Midas touch where they weren't really, they knew how to massage it, right? Because they said on that track the left front and the left rear of the tires that go get burned up the most because of all the turns, right? The right hand turns. But no, that was I found it interesting that they were still online, even still on the what would be considered the dry line, even with the wet, as opposed to going a wet line. I saw Lewis do it once on one turn where he went away from the apex and did a wide turn around there, But then I looked at what he was doing other times, and he was just right there back on. They didn't even go like a car away from the dry line to do stuff. So I found that very, very intriguing that they're still able to stay there.
Yeah, and speaking of intermediates, I think Leclerc, who was sixth place behind Sainz during the race, really got a bad call to change the from slicks to intermediate. Now they were saying on the radio that the commentators were saying that usually it's the driver that calls that, who makes that decision. Mm-hmm. If he did make that decision to go into intermediates like 5 or 6 laps before everybody else, he just ruined his own race. But I felt for him really because he wasn't even in the race anymore after that bad decision.
Well, I'll say this. It's from what I say, it's usually the team says it or the teammate asks the driver input. But again, Ferrari is like gone back to their old ways of, from last season where they can't get stuff straight because they had the same question with Lewis, right? The first time he came in, his engineer reached out to him and said, "Hey, we need to pit now." And Lewis says, "No, tires are good. I'm out." And, and then again, loosely, what I would do if I were there, I'd watch the lap times, right? You're watching the times. The driver says it's cool. All right, let's see your time. Put the time in. And then, because if the time don't show up, then what you say is mute. You need to come in now. You know what I'm saying? Because you're losing to your competitor. But he was able to pull it off. But yeah, I think, Ferrari, I don't know what's going on, man. It's like they lost their way again. I don't know if it's an upgrade that they did. Somebody mentioned that their upgrades weren't that great. But again, from the strategy side of the house, they lost their way. They couldn't put it together. And, they heard him. They because he already started on the back foot for the race. And they just further pushed him down right
and
down there. And
he got the 6th from 11th to 6th.
Right. So he has a quick car, right? But they pushed him down and he had to do work, right? So it's just, it's sad. It's sad to see because I think Leclerc is a guy that's more – Sainz is a guy that will talk, because you're like, yo, no, you're wrong. This is what we need to do, right? And I think Leclerc is like a guy that he's more trusting of the guys on a pit wall to say what they're saying because maybe he thinks that they have the data, even though they're interpreting the data wrong, and they're like, yeah, come on in for the, whatever. Because it was a gamble. Nobody was sure how heavy and how long. Even though they're looking at radar, it was not there. I don't believe it was there for certain how long and heavy it was going to be, right? Because everybody was slipping around, right? And because, was it Lewis went off. Russell went off, right? And then I believe even Lando went off, because Lando ratted on them. So they went off, to do it. And then, turn around, play. He went off, but nobody ratted on him. But anyway. So
they probably did, but we probably didn't hear it.
Yeah. So, all right. So, so it was tough, but it's just, I don't know. Ferrari has work to do on both sides. They have work to do on whatever package they brought, but they have to go back to their strategist that, makes those moves that they need to work on, right? They need to work on that.
Yeah, I just felt bad for him.
It'd be good to have him in the mix, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like they were before.
Still third in the points.
Yeah, but you see, I'm a simpleton. I need to see it on screen. I need to see them running. Like today, I couldn't even walk over from the television because I saw a couple of cars, running around up there in the front. I was like, I forgot about the rest of the race. I'm like, what's going on?
That was exciting.
Anyway, yeah.
It was exciting. I don't know about you, but those last 5 laps and 7 laps, I was on pins and needles. I wanted Lewis to have it so bad. So segueing to that a little bit, I know we got some more stuff to talk about, but I don't think we did Lewis any justice today as far as talking. I mean, he won the British Grand Prix, broke a record, 9th win at Silverstone, and he was very emotional about it. I had a feeling he was going to be emotional about it. What were your thoughts about his win today?
I thought it was well deserved. I will say that I was a little surprised when I heard him respond for the first time. I was like, "Whoa, yeah, he's really emotional." And then when I had time to sit down and think about it, he clarified it in his interview. Mm-hmm. He said, since it got stolen from him, he hasn't won anything yet, right? And what he said is real. People can identify with that. You're coming from the top, or even what you're doing. You're trying to make progress, right? And you get knocked down, and you question yourself. Hey, do I have it? Should I, can I make it? And that's what what was fascinating to everybody to see, that we're all human, that even a champion like himself was questioning himself. You know what I'm saying? And plus, think about it even worse. He has other outside, quote unquote, media pushing that stuff on him too. So it's not only that he's him and himself, he's getting people assisting him to kick him off the edge. I think it was an appropriate thing, because what I noticed throughout the race with regards to that is that whenever he came up, he got the higher applause from the audience than Russell did, and then Lando did. And that, to me, I found that moving, that they really respect him. You know what I'm saying? Because he is Afro-American in the sport, right?
He's not American.
I mean, in British, sorry. I want to hold him because he's so good. But you know what I'm saying? But again, he's not but they have accepted him for what, and he's gone through heck. Don't get me wrong to do it, but he's laid down the rule, and people, they were cheering for him. And that was good. And yeah, I was glad, because when I was concerned when he was in the car and he came back, I was like, dude, when he pulls in, he can't pull those emotions back anymore when he pulls in. And it was perfect for his dad to be there to help him just get it out so he could get back in focus. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I was very happy for him for his win. I think it was well deserved. And I think George did the stand-up thing. He came down and he was the first guy to, throw a hand in the car, and congratulate him. So that was good. You know what I'm saying? Even though, yeah, because really the car being had nothing to do with Lewis, more of a mechanical failure at that point. But still, he was the first one, even before he fully composed, he reached in the cockpit, and say, give him my hand. So that was good.
He won the race fair and square. There was no controversy.
He drove the heck out of that car. Yeah,
so it was good. Like you said, he probably got a little bit more boost from the crowd.
Most definitely.
I think Lando and Russell did. Felt sorry for Russell, even though he was in fourth place. He wasn't really catching up. There was something definitely wrong with that car. Not sure when it took place either. I don't know if it took place during the rain or when Lewis passed him, but he just couldn't get it back together after he pit. And I think he probably would have came in third or fourth if he was able to stay out there. But I saw something in Lewis from the first lap when he ducked behind Russell to ward off Lando. I knew they were working in tandem. I think that was a strategy from the very beginning, that they were going to work together on the first lap just to keep position. But I also saw that he was maintaining and he was catching up on the slower corners. He was catching up on Russell, and Verstappen just couldn't catch him. So I knew it was one of their two races. I knew it.
Yeah. Well, yes. I'll say from the weekend, right? Lewis was charged, ready to roll, right? From the beginning of the weekend, he was ready to roll, because I think he laid down a flyer there, and it may have been a little surprise. I wanted to know, I'd like to talk to Russell to find out how far on the edge was he in order to beat him when he laid down that flyer, to beat Lewis time. You know what I'm saying? Like how far on the edge did you have the car? You know what I'm saying? Was it that if you sneezed, you'd have been gone? You know what I'm saying? Because, yeah, and as I said, one of the commentators, said that as a team, he wants to stamp himself and he wants to make sure he beats his, his teammate, right? So, props to him for that. They've said before that they were going to do a team thing. I didn't believe it, put it that way, right? Because they say all these things because they want to win. But they did work it out, and they did, seem like they started to do it that way and started to work until, Lewis was using the time to find the areas where George would have been, a little vulnerable and, make that move. But I still think that George was thinking of the long play, that they were going to come back and, do another thing on the back end there that would then bring him back in place. So
good race, man. Exciting race. I really, really enjoyed it. It really made my Sunday. I went to the gym afterwards and I was able to be inspired in that sense. So I think the sport, if we see more parity like this going forward for the rest of the next 12 races, I think the sport's in a good spot. I think they're going to have more and more fans join in this last 12 if it's competitive. Mr. Verstappen is still pretty far ahead in points compared to Lando, but Lando was catching him. His last two races hurt Lando a little bit. Lando DNF last week and then coming in third and Verstappen coming in second. But it's 255 versus 171, right?
Yeah, true. Yeah. True.
And then you have Charles is 150. So, and then Sace is 146. So it's really close. It's really close. It's a lot closer than it was 3 weeks ago. And it's less than 100 points. So that's really 4 races.
Yeah, well, before we leave all this, I want to talk about what Zach did to my man Piastri. Again, he hung him out to dry, right?
Zach
because
Brown?
Yeah, the McLaren owner.
Okay.
Yeah, because again, right, when they came in the pit,
mm-hmm.
why didn't he, they claimed they didn't want to stack the car. That's a bunch of poppycock. You know what I'm saying? Because listen, that's the guy was on slicks. It was raining. They already knew that it was going to take him too long to come around. So the amount of time that they didn't have a penalty, right? No car had a penalty. So they would be able to pit the car as quick as the guys could get the tires off, get the tires on, and, have the other set ready to rock and roll, right? Because Mercedes did that, and they were able to do it. They hung Piastri out to dry again because, again, they're protecting Lando, but Piastri is ready. He is going to win a race this season. He's going to win a race. And I would like to see him win a race by passing Lando or Verstappen. So because according to Zach, they're free to race, which I'm kind of thinking that's not the point anymore because, dude, the strategy, you have to go around, stack them and let them come out, right? Because then they would have an opportunity for them to, then push on and go because they'd have come in with Russell and Lewis, so they're right there, right? So when Lewis and Russell pulled, at least would have been Lando would be first and Piastri would be in the back. So Lando would be going with Lewis. So when Lewis moves out, he moves out. And then when Russell moved out, Piastri would move out. So, it's just they killed themselves, man. They killed themselves on that because, and again, they had the opportunity to bring in Lando earlier, right? Because they had over the radio, they asked Lando which one you want to cover. And, do you want to cover Max or you want to cover Lewis, right?
That's two separate times, though.
Yeah, but still, it compounded. That just helps them slip back some more. That's the point I'm making. Whereas they could be, their race could be somewhat, I think, a bit easier. But my big takeaway is what they did to Piastri. It's not cool.
So I don't disagree. I think just when I looked at it again, because I did look at it, they were all 4 cars were less than a second and a half from each other, right? So when Norris pulls in, there's a 3-second pit, right?
Yeah, call it that.
Piastri would have to slow down. He can't stop. He has to slow down.
He stops right behind him. Behind him.
If his butt is out, he can get a penalty for that as well.
Yeah. But yes.
And then Lewis, it was like 1.2, 1.3 seconds behind Piastri. So Lewis would have come out in front of Piastri no matter what, because Piastri would have to wait.
But Norris was the first guy, not Piastri. Remember,
Huh?
Norris was the first guy.
Right. Lando would be in first. Piastri would have to come behind him and wait. Yep. Lewis and Lando would have been pitted together, right? And then they would have came out and Lewis would have passed Piastri. There's no way he would not have passed Piastri, right? But there was nobody behind Russell. So Russell could stop in the pit. There was nobody behind Russell. So Russell could stop in the pit, wait for Lewis, which he did. Right. Actually, he slowed down. He didn't even stop. He slowed down enough to, as Lewis was leaving, he was coming in. Right. So they didn't get a pet, but Piastri couldn't do that. Piastri can't slow down, and he got to be careful where he stops. If you slow down in the pit lane, slower than the pit regulation speed, you get a penalty for that.
Oh, I understand.
Yeah. Right. So knowing that the track is half wet, half dry, I think they thought that he'd be able to go around and not lose that 20-second, but it was still raining pretty hard. They made a mistake. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts, and Piastri got the raw end of the stick.
The short end of the stick, yeah.
But I think all the circumstances that was leading up to that, I don't know if I would have made the right choice. I'm just being honest. I don't know if I would have made the right choice with Lewis being right behind them, can't slow down in the pit, can't stop. It's one of those things where you could have made a mistake there too.
I understand. Yes, we all human, but these guys do this on a day in and day out because you could have sent a message to Piastri that whatever, camouflage it, that you need to not get off of Lando's bumper a bit and let Lando give him some room because we're going to pull you in too.
Lewis is like a less than 2 seconds behind.
So again, but you got, as from a team perspective, you got one car covering the 2 other cars that are running there. You follow what I'm saying? Because if Piastri, stepped out of it, right, Lewis has come around or whatever. But the key was Lando was in front, so you want to keep Lando in front, right? If anything else, when Piastri stepped out, he wouldn't be too far away that he could come back and have Lewis looking in his rear mirror as opposed to looking all the way front. You see
Absolutely.
what I'm saying?
Hindsight 2020. They made a mistake.
And that's what they said, right? But we're looking at them. I'm just an armchair guy that's trying to piece things together. Let me just be clear. I don't claim to be any pro, and I'm not, bashing anybody. I'm just saying that, observation. It would have been cool to see that. But anyway, yeah, it's just, I think. But I see, Piastri's become the sacrificial lamb, right? Because Piastri has been a better number 2 than Sergio has been, right? Because he's nowhere to be found, right? When things fell apart, Piastri picked up in the last race, right? So
absolutely. And he's only 5th in points right now. He's 5th in points.
Right. So Jack,
right
I think Zach needs to take care of him better than what he's doing with him now. Bring the young guy closer. That was the big thing, to see that they did that to Piastri again. It was just like, come on, guys, man. It's not cool, right? But the thing is this, though. I think if it was a dry race, it would be different, because when they pitted, right, came in, Lewis took soft, Max went on the hard. Everybody was flipping out, like, what are they doing? And he came through like a steamroller on him, right? Oh, sorry, I missed one. Where they pulled in Norris at the wrong time, right? And they had a little bit of a little thing in there that allowed Lewis to get back in front of him, right? Because Lewis went out, came around and passed him, remember? So
Lando didn't pit properly. He passed his pit markers.
Yeah, they said he slid on something. Yeah, but again, they just had they kind of, I think they shot themselves in the foot on that go. I think that's what they did. They shot themselves in the foot on that go.
It's exactly what I said before. They have yet to finish a race. They don't have. They either have a great qualifying and a great start and a bad ending, or they have a bad qualifying, great start, great ending, but they have yet to put the whole package together. And they will. It's just a matter of time now. I mean, there's only so many lessons learned, right?
Yeah.
And I think they will.
Yeah, because Max was on fire when he got the slicks on him. That was crazy when he got the slicks.
The hard
tires. Yeah, because everybody was like, been around the rain. Usually in the rain. Oh, it was cold too, right? Because everybody had on, jackets too. So they were surprised that fired up for his car, for him to like start pushing,
Yeah, the mediums is what Lando should have put on. Lando messed up when he put the red tires on and the soft tires on. And if you saw Piastri's lap times compared to Lando's with the soft tires, Piastri would have caught him in 5 laps. He was just moving, and he was like 17 seconds behind Lando when they came out of the pit. And he was only 5 seconds when they ended the race.
That's my man, Piastri. But so you're saying Lewis has the Midas touch when it comes to that soft tires, right?
I just believe Lewis was not going to lose that race.
Yeah, his tires was, they showed a picture of he did a lot of pickup on the way in, but I think he has maybe comes from the days when they didn't have much and they had to do with, use nothing to do something. Yeah, McLaren has some stuff to work on. They were off, and I will agree with you this one time that yes, they're yet to finish a race, start to finish, where they, do the qualifying and then do the executing. They still need to work on some of that to make it work, because with Red Bull, they're 9 times out of 10 they're on fire with what they're doing. It's only once in a while they screw up. So
we got some pressure on them now, so we'll see how that goes.
Well, we'll see.
What's your predictions for the Hungarian race?
Oh, at the Hungaroring, Max number 1. There's going to be a McLaren, and a Mercedes is going to be there somewhere in the mix. Those are. I don't know if it's Mercedes. I still need to see more of what their car does to say, all right, you have arrived at the same location that these guys are. So Max is still gonna, it's dry. He's gonna take it if there's no problem with his car, right? He's gonna. I think he'll get the pole, and then everybody else will be trying to knock him down. But again, I'm still waiting for a car to show up that is right on par with them. Yeah.
So there's only one DRS zone in the Hungarian race. I think my predictions are going to be my gut telling me Verstappen, but I want to go with Russell. I think he's going to be mad about what happened this week, and I think he has something to prove. I think Lando still has something to prove. Yeah, I mean, I think the easy pick is Verstappen, but I'm going to go with Lando and Russell or Lando. I'm just thinking those two are mad and focused right now.
Yeah, we'll see. Because again, Verstappen's anywhere on the front, the first or second row is it's going to be challenging depending on who's in front of him to hold him back. We're definitely going to have. I think the McLaren's going to be there for sure. And the only thing I'm not 100% sure of, the call up if it's a Mercedes. But yeah, I would agree that Charles is going to be pissed, so he wants to redeem himself, to say that he's still number one in this one. But yeah, I think it's it's gonna be fun, and they have some time off between the things, so they can get some stuff together, get their little rest before they do it. So now it's shaping up to be better than I thought the season was going to be. Right, I'll admit to that. And if they keep progressing, it can even be better still. So because I'm looking for Ferrari to snap out of what they're into and come back with a package and some strategy that puts them back in the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's the 12th race. Right now, Verstappen is 255 points. Lando is second with 171, so he's right there. Charles Leclerc is 150 in third, and Sainz is fourth with 146. Either one of them win a race, they're right back there in second place. It's going to be interesting, right? I think if Max is going to have to stay second, third, or fourth going forward just to maintain his lead. Right now, he's only 80 something, 84 points ahead. I can disappear with two races, especially if it's Lando winning two races in a row, it gets 50 points. So anyway, I think it's going to be interesting. The next 12 races are going to be awesome.
Yeah, if it keeps on the same trajectory, I would agree with that statement that we're going to be entertained, and instead of watching the back markers, we're going to be watching these guys up front to see, what's really going on and who's, what they're jostling for. So no, I hope it stays there, and and see what's going on, and and we get my simplistic entertainment on the track,
Absolutely.
see stuff happening on the track. So yeah.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's our show for this week. Look forward to talking and going over the results for the Hungarian race, which is in 2 weeks from today. So please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. It helps support the channel and help us bring more content to you. Have a great week.
Yep. Out.